Today we're going to talk about writing a standard form equation from a scenario or a real life situation. We're also going to write one for in slope-intercept form as well. Yesterday we looked at writing two standard form equations that we discussed in class, so we want to carry on that discussion today. So first, make sure you're on the right side where it says concession stand, and then we're going to go over this one together, part of it, because the other part, the bottom half of the paper that you can't see, that you should be able to fill out on your own or with a partner. The first part is reading and understanding what the problem is telling you. So it states you are running a concession stand at a football game. You sell hot dogs for $1 and sodas for 50 cents. At the end of the night, you made $140. So in order to start writing our equation, we first want to define our variables. So what does that mean? When it says define, just what does the variables represent? In this case, we can use any variable we want. It doesn't matter. We can use X and Y. We can use D and S. But I'm just going to go with X and Y because that's what we looked at yesterday. And then we can change the variables if we want to later. So in the problem, there are two rates. And you may or may not know that those are rates, but we're selling hot dogs and the price of each hot dog is $1. So it was $1 per hot dog. And then we are also selling sodas. And so each soda is 50 cents. And at the end of the night, we're told that we made $140. So this is our total. So X and Y represents the two quantities in the problem that we are selling. We could say that X represents the number of hot dogs. So number of hot dogs. And we could say that Y represents the number of sodas. Now, in actuality, it doesn't matter. We could flip it. X could be the sodas, Y could be the hot dogs, but this is just the way that I'm writing it because hot dogs are listed first. So to write my standard form equation, standard form we've looked at for a while now is in this form, AX plus BY equals C, where A, B, and C are just integers or numbers, constants. A and B are like a rate. And so in this case, A would represent the dollar because it's $1 per hot dog. B would represent 50 cents because it's 50 cents for each soda. So when I write out my equation, we could put 1x or simply just x plus 50 cents. So 0.50y, and that is equal to 140 because that's the cost, the total cost. And so now we can take that equation and we can begin to find the slope, find the y-intercept, find the zero, and then write the function based on the table that we're going to complete here. We want to complete this table from this equation. So I know in my table that this is x and this is y, but since we know what x and y represents, we want to write that down. We just don't want to leave x and y in the table. So this is number of hot dogs. And the y represents the number of sodas. Now, finding the values you should be able to do because we've done that plenty of times. So if we go over to our calculator, home, and then new document number 1. No, you don't want to save it if you're asked, and then add a graph. Because the equation we have is in standard form, it's not in function notation, then I have to delete the equal sign and add a relation, number 6, and then type in our equation. So 1x plus 0.50y is equal to 140. Now, it's okay that nothing showed up because that just means the graph is not in our viewing window from 6.6 to negative 6.6 and from 10 to negative 10. We can still find the y-intercept by doing menu, trace, graph trace, and bam, there's our point. So 0 and 280. So it starts at 280 here on the y-axis, which is way higher than we can see. So we go back to our table and we just complete our points. So 0, 280, and then we go back. Now, instead of scrolling all the way down till I get to 26, which is my next point, I can just type in 26 and see 26, enter, and then it says 228 is the y value. 228. So I want you to fill in these. I'm not going to fill in those. You should be able to find those. Instead, we're going to go directly and talk about the slope. So to find the slope, that's also something you should be able to do. We had a test over it. You've done it in middle school. We know that the slope is the change in y over the change in x. So if I look at the y represents the SOTUS. So how are the values changing from 280 to 228? Well, it's decreasing, of course. If you're not sure by how much it's decreasing, then go back to your calculator. Home, down here, add a calculator, click on that, and then type in the second number, which was 228, minus the first number, which is 280. So negative 52. Negative 52. And then my change in x. So how are the excuse me, how are the x's changing from 0 to 26? Well, we're adding 26. So now we can find the slope here, negative 52 over 26. That you can simplify, so I'll let you simplify that. You should be able to divide that. The y-intercept you should be able to find, and then the 0 you should be able to find. So the y-intercept, if you didn't locate it before, is this 0 and 28. So our 0 and 280, so I'll put 280. As an ordered pair is 0, 280. So you can represent it either way, as this single number or as an ordered pair. The 0, I'm going to let you find that. I will just say that's the x-intercept in case you've forgotten. And then my function, I want to write this in function notation. So f of x. And for that, we need the slope and the y-intercept. So hopefully you found the slope. We have the y-intercept. So you should be able to write the function here. It's going to be in the form mx plus b. So you need to replace this number with whatever you found this to be. And then you need to replace the b, or my y-intercept, with this number. So I'll let you do that. So now I want you to finish the bottom portion. So if I go back to here, you should be able to finish this part down here. So what does the slope represent? You may struggle with that. That's okay. We'll talk about it tomorrow. What does the y-intercept represent? That you should be able to do. What does the 0 represent? That you should be able to do. Discrete or continuous. So are you counting something or are you measuring something? What is a reasonable